Good morning. We're learning as the schus for Shleima for Ilana Chaya Basarach. We are on Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph. Continuing with the Gemara. The Gemara had started back on the previous Amud, where it said we brought the din of Chizkiah that Shirayim are the Shirayim go to the Kayin. When you bring a mincha, you have to do the Kmitza, the Shirayim go to the Kayin normally. We'll have a machlekes. It's not always the case, right? And there's the oila that's not. But where do we know that those menachos that are nikmatzos that are mentioned in the Mishnah, they go to the Kayin. So Rechizkiah had said, you learn that from a pasuk. So then we had this whole long brisa of V'chol to tell you a different din. We said that it's coming to tell you that the shirayim of a mincha cannot be that not just shirayim of a mincha, but essentially any carbon or any offering cannot be exchanged. A kohen who gets it has to keep what he got, and he can't do any barter with any other carbon, even if it's exactly the same one. You learn that from L'chol. Zok the Gemara, so we're up to ish chaylik. We just brought the pasuk. The last pasuk we had just said. It's that even by kachim and kachim kalim. Even by kachim kalim, you can't be chaylik. The kohen can't divide it up with someone else. So Gemara, but once we mentioned that pasuk, ish chaylik vafilu ba'mum ve'in katan chaylik vafilu tam. Another thing that we learn out from the ish tells you that only a man can, a kohen who's a gadol can get a chaylik of the karbanis, and that means even if he's a ba'mum. But it says ish to tell you, but a katan cannot. Even if he's a tam, katan is precluded from getting a chelik of the carbon.
I'm sorry, where is it on the page?
I'm sorry?
Where is it on the daf?
It's about like 2/3 of the way down. By the words ish chelik, bafilu balmo. It's, I don't know how to say it. It's a little down, like 5 lines down from where the Rabbeinu Gershom is. It's really a little bit in the middle. That's why I was bringing us back to where we were.
Ein Gimel Amud Aleph, right?
Ein Gimel Amud Aleph, yeah. In Menachos? Do you have Menachos and Atzvachim?
Yeah, Menachos, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Ish.
Pasuk says ish. It's like the middle of the line. Ish chaylik vafilu ba'mum ve'in kan chaylik vafilu tam. I would say it's about 25 lines from the bottom.
Oh, yes, yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Okay. Zok the Gemara. Now the Gemara is finally getting back to what we had said, that Chizkiah had said, you live in the pasuk, v'chol mincha, asher v'lula b'shemen, or choreva, that you go to Bnei Aaron. We say it's coming to tell you that you can't exchange, one kohen can't exchange his chelik with someone else. But we learned it for Chizkiah's din. Chizkiah had said to tell you that shirayim are nechalim l'kohen. So Gemara kol nafka. He says it's not just from kol mincha, but it's just a mincha. What does it say? Kol mincha. So that's where the Bryce is telling you that the din that you can't be chaylik, and Chizkiah is then that the Shirayim is nechalim l'kohen, even of shta'arim is coming from mikah. Is coming from mincha. One says, but okay, we already learned out that we're really squeezing this pasuk dry. We have another drasha that comes from that pasuk. It's a machlokes that we've had come across several times, where if Shimon holds that you can combine a mincha of partially, um, what do you call it? It could be partially matzahs and partially chalis. One of the kinds of minchas nedava is a baked mincha, and what you can make it um, either thick or thin. It could be either, like we said, leavened or not, or not. That's not leavened. I'm sorry. It's just thick or thin. Whether it's chalis made into thick, I guess, breads or thin matzahs or kikin. So Rav Shimon had said you could combine, those two are really the same thing, and they could be combined, and Rav Yehuda says not. So you need Rabbi Yosef Yehuda learns it from this pasuk. Elahu mi vichal. The Torah says a vav, vichal, that tells you a third thing that you can learn from this pasuk. You learn like Rabbi Yosef Yehuda as well. Ravina Amar. Ravina says, he says a different source for Chizkiya's din. Right? Chizkiya had said that you learn out that Sa'irim are nechal kehanim. The kehanim get the shirayim. Ravina says from another pasuk. Ravina ma'asim the Tani Levi. Tani Levi. L'chol kabanim l'chol menchasim l'chol chatasim l'chol hashama. The Brisa says this pasuk. The pasuk zeh yeh lecha mikol shekadashim ben eishal lekarben lecha mincha lechatam lecha hashama shehivu li kodesh kadashim lecha hulul v'nech. It's telling you what goes to the kehanim. The Torah says a bunch of lashonos, and the Brisa is going to dash in different things from each part of the pasuk. Kol karbanim l'rabis loik shem shomitzor. It's coming to tell you that the kohen gets the chelik. He gets to eat the loik shemen that's brought by the mitzora when it's part of his tyrah. I would have thought the Torah says mina eish. So that would tell you only those things that are burnt. That part of it is burnt. Like shemen, it goes on the ear and then the behindness and it's a zrika, but there's nothing burnt from the like shemen. Kamash malan. So that's why we have to have the pasuk kol karbanim to tell you the like shemen also goes to the kain to be eaten. L'chol menchasim, what do we learn from l'chol menchasim? Rabbis minchas ha'omer. Minchas Kanas. It's coming to tell you the Minchas Ha'Aimer that we've been talking about, that comes on the 16th day of Nisan, and the Minchas Kanas, which is the Minchas Saita, which is used to determine whether the Saita is was Iver, and if she's going to go free, or when she drinks the May Saita that she's going to die. Torah says those that will get a kapara. These, the Minchas Aimer is coming to be mater chadash, and the Minchas Kanois is coming to be mater a woman who's a potential saita. I'm sorry, lahater kasi is the Minchas Aimer. And the Gemara says, the site is coming to figure out whether she was mizana. Kamashmalan. That's why the Torah says that l'chol menchasam, to tell you that these are also going to go to the kehanim. Kamashmalan. L'chol chatasam, the pasuk continues. The Brisa continues explaining the pasuk. L'rabas chatas oif. It's coming to include the chatas oif, that what's left over after the malika, that the basar of the oil goes to the kahanim. Sa'ad chamina nevelahi. I might think when you do malika, it's not a shchita. Maybe it's an nevela and it's not a kasha to be eaten. Kamashul, and that's why the Torah has to tell you that this is also eaten. L'chol chatas, l'chol hasham. The pasuk continues. The rabbis asham nazir v'asham mitzayir. It's coming to include the asham brought by the nazir at the conclusion of his naziris, and the asham of a mitzayir when they want to be mitar. Correct the Gemara. What do you need a pasuk to tell you that the Asher Mitzayra is Nechal Kehanim? Behedik Sebeki Kechatas Asham Ulakayim. The Torah says a Chatas Asham, the Asham of a Mitzayra goes to the Kayin. El Rabbis Asham Nazir Ki Asham Mitzayra. That's the other Rabbah. With Asham Mitzayra we take a no. when the pasuk says chatas, when the brisa says it's telling you the asham nazir and the asham mitzvah, it means the asham nazir is treated like the asham mitzvah. I would thought the asham nazir is not included. It's not going to be eaten by the gehanim. Lahachsher ka'asi, because it's not coming to be mechaper, but rather it's coming to allow someone who is tamei to be tar. Kamashmulan. Asher yashivu. The pasuk continues. That which is returned, that which is zeh gezel ger. That's coming to tell you that if someone steals from a ger, this is another one of the matnas kahuna that goes to a kain. If someone steals from a ger, normally there's a chiyuv of hashava beheshav v'sakzela, but when you steal from a ger, there's nothing to get from. There's no one to give it to. There's no hashava. If the ger died, he has no yarshim who you give it to, so it goes to the kaihan. So that's what the pasuk is saying. Asher yashiv l'chahi ulevanecha, right at the bottom of Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph. L'chahi ulevanecha should go to you and to your sons. Afilu kadosh b'yasisha. The Torah is telling you that all these matnas kahuna, all these things that go to a kohen, they're going to be his, fully his. That he's even going to be able to be totally his. It's going to be used to be mekadosh isha. It's not different than anything else that he owns. It's not that it's really, we've come across in the past the concept of mishulch gavaya ka'achli, that it's really it belongs to the base to the Rebbeinu Shalom. The Rebbeinu Shalom like the Rebbeinu Shalom was saying no, that it's totally his, that he can mekadosh an isha with it.
Where are we up to? You said?
I'm sorry.
Where are we?
We're right at the bottom of the last three words of Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph.
Thank you.
Amar Rav Huna. Turning the page. Shalmei ha'ovdei kechavim oilos. When a oved kechavim says, I want to donate, Rav Huna says a chiddush that if the oved kechavim says, I want to donate a shlamim, it automatically becomes an idol, regardless of what the oved kechavim's intentions were. Iboy say makrav, iboy say misvara. And I can tell you from a pasuk or a svara. Iboy say misvara. First, I'll tell you the svara. Ovid kechavim libe l'shamayim. Now, Ovid kechavim gives it. His intention is that it should go to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Zakrashi libe l'shamayim. Kavanasa hu sheyei kavanosav kol l'shamayim v'lo sheyochli. His kavana is that when he gives a carbon, he intends it to be burnt up, and it doesn't make it into what he did. He never assumes anything's going to be eaten, which is, I think, a very telling distinction. I always learned this, that a distinction between Yiddishkeit and other religions the way they look at religiosity is they think it's supposed to be asceticism. It's supposed to be denial. The purpose of religion to them is to keep people from the more religious you are, the less you have Olam Hazeh. So therefore, they assume it. If you're giving a sacrifice means like the Incas did, the Aztecs. They would pull the person's heart out. They would cut it. Everything was destruction. But Yiddishkeit is a way to live. So we understand that when it's a very rare editorial comment for me, that we understand that when we give a carbon, the Russian doesn't need our carbon, doesn't need destructiveness, and we could also eat from it. That's what the Russian wants. He wants us to be v'chalta v'savata, v'rachta Hashem aleikecha. But Goyim, when they always think, even they call it a shlom, they think it's intended to be fully consumed by their Rebbeinu Shalom. So that's the svara. The boy say makra asher yakrilu Hashem la'olam. They will be makriv to Hashem for oil. Called the makari oil lahavi. Whatever you makriv from a guy will always be an oil. Maser Cham Bar Gurya. Cham Bar Gurya asked on this shita Rav Huna that everything brought by a guy is always oil. Oil kechavim says nadav lahevi shlamim. A oil kechavim who decided to donate a shlamim, nasan Yisrael. If he gives it to Yisrael Yisrael could eat it. Nasan l'kain, kain eichel. The kain could eat it. Vice versa. But if it was a oil, no part of the oil is eaten. How could he give it to Yisrael or to a kain? Amrav hachi kama. Amnashi iskapa ben Yisrael, Yisrael oichlan. Amnashi iskapa kain kainich. When he says that he wants to give it to a Yisrael or a kain, it doesn't mean that he's bringing the carbon. Then after he brings the carbon, he's giving what came from it to the kain Yisrael. It means he's providing to the Yisrael or the kain. The kain of Yisrael had to bring a carbon. They made a nedava of, let's say, of a shlamim. So, or even of a shlamim. So the Ovid Kechavim is donating his animal to be used as the Yisrael or the Kayan's carbon, but it's really their own carbon. It's not the Ovid Kechavim's, because Eina Chanami, like Rav Huna, he would say that everything is going to be an oil if it's coming directly from the Ovid Kechavim. Most of Rav Shizvi has another kasha on this rule that anything that comes from an Ovid Kechavim is always oil. Elu Menachos Nikmatzos v'Shirei L'Kehanim. These Menachos, you take the kmitza from them, and what's left over goes to Kehanim. Minchas Oivdei Kechavim. Mincha v'Oivdei Kechavim. It says in our Mishnah that the Mincha v'Oivdei Kechavim, the Shireh is Nechal. If it's an Oila, there would be no such thing as a Shireh Nechal. Amar Rabbi Yochanan like kasha. So you're going to have to really essentially concede that even though Rav Huna said it as a rule, he's only saying according to one Tana, because it's really a machlekes Tanaim. This question of whether a Oived Kechavim can only bring a oil or can bring other karbanos is a machlekes Tanaim. Rabbi Zaglili HaRabbi Kiva, the Tanya, Ish, Matam Elohim Ish. What does the Torah tell you from the word? Davar Armel Bonav El Kol Bnei Yisrael Matalim Ish Mi Beis Yisrael Min Ager Yisrael. What do you learn from Ish? Ish l'rabas is Oived Kechavim. It's coming to include Oived Kechavim shenoidim midarim and davas Yisrael. They can make a neder and they can make a nedava just like a yid. Asher yakrivu l'Hashem la'oila, that you'll be makavid as oila. Ein liyel la'oila. That will only tell you an oila. Shlam minayim. How do you know that they could also bring a shlam? So this is obviously not like Rav Huna. Talmud Loima Nidreim. That's what the Torah says, Nidreim. Torah, so that tells you even they could even bring a shlam. Could just left it. Could just left it at Ish Yisrael when Gab Yisrael. Asher Yaakov Karbanim. What does it say? L'chol Nidreim. It's coming to tell you even a shlam. Torah mina. And how do you know even that a Oived Kechavim can bring a carbon Torah? The Talmud Loima Nidvoisim. How do we know what Oived Kechavim can even be menadev, a standalone? You can bring an oifus. He wants to bring an oilus oif instead of an oilus of an animal. V'hayayin, if he wants to give a nadav of yayin that could be nisachim that's poured by itself on the mizbeach. V'halavoina. These are also things that could be given as standalone nedavos. Tamalim and nidreim, l'chol nidreim. Nidvaisam l'chol nidvaisam. It says l'chol nidreim, l'chol nidvaisam. That tells you all these things can be brought even by kechavim. Imkei mata meloy ma'oilo. If that's the case, if you could bring all these different kinds of karbanos can be brought by kechavim, why does the Torah specify an oila? So oila problem is zeros. It's coming to tell you that Oived Kechavim cannot bring a carbon naziris. He can't become a nazir, and he can't bring a carbon naziris. Div Rabbi Yisrael. So Rabbi Yisrael is clearly not going like Rav Huna. He's saying there's a wide range of karbanos that can be brought by Oived Kechavim. Rabbi Kiva, obviously, it's not going to include the chatas. None of the karbanos chayva will apply to a Oived Kechavim, but pretty much, as far as I could see, everything that's in the gamut of a voluntary, of a nedava or a neder can be brought by Oived Kechavim. That's Rabbi Yisrael. Rabbi Kiva, Rav Huna is going like Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Kiva, Hashem la'oila. Ein li ela oila. He learns like Rav Huna had darshan from the pasuk. Hashem la'oila. That tells you only an oila is brought by Oived Kechavim. Oila bilvad. Practical Gemara, one of the things we listed is that according, not in Rabbi Kiva, but Rabbi Yosef Yehuda, we said that the pasuk is coming to exclude Naziris. The high problem Naziris mehachanafka. Is this where we learn out, like this Brisa said from this pasuk, that a guy cannot bring a carbon Naziris and he can't be a Nazir. Mehasam nafka. Dabal bnei Yisrael. We learn from a different place. Dabal bnei Yisrael mat alem ishki aflil lindor neder Nazir lahazir. That when the ish, meaning of someone from Bnei Yisrael, when he decides Dabal bnei Yisrael mat alem, it's talking about the Bnei Yisrael when they decide to make a neder to become a Nazir. Bnei Yisrael noidim ve'ino evdei kechavim noidim. That tells you only Bnei Yisrael can bring the carbon of a Nazir, not a kechavim. So Gemara, imi asam havamina carbon hu d'lo laisi. Maybe all the Torah is telling you is that an Eved kechavim can become a Nazir, but there's no carbon associated with it. Av Nazir is chalalai, they could become a Nazir. Kamash malan. That's what we need both psukim. So Gemara, kaman azlo hadatnan. Who is this like that which it says in the Mishnah? Amar of Shimon. Where's this Mishnah? Excuse me. Yeah, we had this before. Amar of Shimon. Shimon dvarim hiskinu bezdin. There was 7 things that the bezdin made a takana on. These are things that there was all takanas, I believe, regarding things that come from the tzibur. We had that discussion earlier on which things are paid for by the tzibur and which a person pays for on his own. And these are things that Bezdin was made a takana that it should come from the public fisc. If a Oived Kechavim sends his oila and he's not there to bring it himself, if he sent along money to buy nesachim to go along with it, and oila you have to bring yayin and shemen along with it as a nesachim, minchas nesachim. If he didn't send it, if he sent money, then you use the money sent by the guy. Then lav perik mishal tzibur, they made a takana that should come from the tzibur because an oila requires minchas in the words of nesachim. Let's say this is only like Rabbi Yossi who says you can bring other karbanos besides an oila, because you see, you bring nesachim, you bring yayin and shemen. Not like Rabbi Akiva who says only an oila. So we're not Rabbi Akiva, oila v'chol chavirtu. When we say Rabbi Akiva says that you can only bring an oila, it includes the nesachim, the minchas nesachim that come along with the oila. It never meant to exclude those other ancillary parts of the carbon oil. Ezrach, the pasuk says, "B'chol Ezrach yasa kachas ela lahakar isha reich yichayich Lashem." Ezrach may be nesachim, someone who is a citizen, a part of Bnei Yisrael. They can bring nesachim. Ein Oived Kechavim may be nesachim, but Oived Kechavim doesn't bring nesachim. Yachal atei lasa tunis nesachim. I might think that if someone Oived Kechavim brings an oila, there shouldn't need nesachim. Tamalayim kacha. That's what Torah says kacha, that does need nesachim. Like my money, let Rabbi Yossi Gili, let Rabbi Akiva. It's not like Rabbi Yossi Gili. Rabbi Yossi Gili, Amar Afilu Yayin Nami. If according to Rabbi Yossi Gili, how could we say? We already learned out that Yayin is also included. That a Oived Kechavim could bring Yayin. Rabbi Akiva, Amar Oile in Midiach Bin Eloi. According to Rabbi Akiva, you wouldn't bring the nesachim because even though we just answered this question, I was asking it again. Look, let's taka exclude yayin. I'm sorry, right? We said Rabbi Yossi Haglili had said, right? So. We said you could bring a yayin without a oila. Now we're saying that you can bring only yayin with the oila. So the Gemara says you have to take out yayin. You can't bring yayin without oila. It's only brought as part of the oila. That's what the pasuk is telling you. Rabbi Akiva will answer like we said before. When Rabbi Akiva says that Oived Kechavim can only bring an oila, he means oila together with its nesach. Zok the Gemara. We had in the Mishnah, we had the Machlokes that the Tanakhama said, everything that anything that's entirely kol that gets burnt on the mizbeach, there's no kmitza. You don't do a kmitza on on a minchas, the minchas chayta of a kain, because that anything that comes from a kain is entirely burnt. Any mincha of a kain is entirely burnt. But the Torah says it's supposed to be kmitza. But you don't do kmitza on something that's the Tanakama says you don't do kmitza on something that's going to be burnt altogether. But Rav Shimon said no, you do a kmitza and then you burn the two parts separately. Where does Rav Shimon learn this out? That there is a kmitza that then is going to be separated. We say that first of all, the Brisa says this is a different thing that a kohen can do his own avodah if he's going to bring a minchas saita, as Gemara. I'm sorry, minchas, not minchas saita, minchas chayta. He can this to say I'm going to bring my own minchas chayta. Maybe it's not coming to tell you that he could bring his own thing, but maybe it's coming to tell you that it can be a minchas chayta of kehanim is eaten, even though we say generally what brought the Torah says that what's brought by a mincha of a kehanim is not eaten. Mani mekayim v'chol minchas kohen kol. The ayat says that a mincha of a kohen is fully destroyed. So why would I think a minchas chayta brought by a kohen is going to be eaten by the kehanim? Minchas kohen, like it says, kol here should be fully destroyed. Lo teichel, you shouldn't eat it. So minchas nedavasa, aber chavasa te'enei chalas. I would think maybe that's only a minchas nedava. When a kohen donates a mincha, then it's kol tia lo seichel. But something that he's required to bring, like a minchas chayta, that is eaten by the kohanim. Talmud loy mevahaisel a kohen ka mincha. The Torah says it should be like a mincha makash chayvasa l'ndavasai. Just like it's said by the ndava, it's not eaten. The chayva has the same thing. Ma l'davasai nechalas av chayvasai nechalas. Amr of Shimon. So that's the Tanakama. Amr of Shimon. V'chinema v'haisel a kohen ka minchasai. Doesn't say it should be like his mincha. That with comparing the minchas chayva to a minchas nidava. It's like a general mincha. Rather, now we're finally getting to the source of Rav Shimon. It's not coming to compare a minchas chayta of kehanim to the minchas nidava of kain, but it's coming to compare the minchas chayta of a kain to a minchas chayta of Yisrael. Just like you need a kmitza, which you certainly need by a minchas chayta because of Yisrael, because the rest of it is eaten by the kehanim. Even though the minchas chayta of kehanim, it still applies at kol tia, but it still is going to need kmitza just like a minchas chayta of Yisrael, the kmetzes. Maybe I would say, once you're comparing it, maybe it gets all the dinim of a minchas chayta of Yisrael, that what's left over should be eaten by kehanim. It should be for the kohen. It should be for the kohen as a mincha. That legabe the kmitza, it's like a kohen like a mincha. But it's not like it's not exactly the same as a minchas nedava of a kohen, a mincha which is fully burnt entirely without any kmitza. Okay, so kaimitz karavatza shirayim kreven atzman. That even though you're going to do a kmitza and then you're going to burn everything like the minchas, like a mincha of a Yisrael. I'm sorry, not a mincha Yisrael, like a nedava of a kohen, but it's going to be in two separate sections that you're going to burn the kaimitz together with the rest of the shirayim. So Gemara. So we had just said at the beginning of this brisa that the kohen can do the avodah when he brings the korban. So Gemara. that the kohen who does his own avodah, it's kosher for him to do it. Mehacha nafka, do you really learn that from here? Mehasam nafka, we learn it from a different source. Minayin lekohen shabo makum kuminasa b'chol eis b'chol shosha year. So the kohen could bring his own carbon whenever he wants. Tamalei mubah b'chol ivas nafshay b'shoris. The kohen could go at his own whim and he could do the avodah. So I would think it's only something which is involved with a chait. I would think it only is in the dava. Maybe when it's a chait, then he can't provide his own. He can't do his own avodah to provide himself with the kapara. Someone else has to do it. You're telling me that's where it comes from? We have another pasuk for that. The kohen will be mechaper on someone who does the shoygig the chatas. But shoygig melamed shakohen miskapal de atzmai. That tells you that kohen could be bishkoga melamed, that kohen could be mechaper on himself. Imehu is a gemara. If that's where it's coming from, havami nahani mili b'shoygig. That can only maybe that mentions bedavka shoygig. The kohen can do the avodah. But with mezid, if he has to bring a minchas chayta for a mezid, maybe he doesn't. Maybe that he can't do kamash malan. For tomorrow, the obvious question: the mezid heichi mishkachas lo. When do you bring a carbon for a mezid? Generally, the rule is you get a punishment for a mezid. You don't bring a carbon. So tomorrow, bezadan shkur. When someone does there's various shvus. There's a couple of things that even bezadan, if someone makes a shvua to not to say edus, or he makes a shvua to deny a pekadon, in that case, you bring a carbon. So that's the carbon that we have to tell you that even a kohen could bring on his own behalf.
What about the oilers that are brought for mitzvahs aseh? Let's say he intentionally neglected to do an aseh.
I don't think you bring a chatas. I don't think you bring a oiler for intentional. That's for it's only for unintentional.
It's only for unintentional.
I think so. I don't know. It's a good question, but I think it's only. I think the oilah, I don't think you're mechuyev to bring an oilah when you do an essay, when someone is over an essay. That's when someone brings the oilah, it's mechaper on the essays that he was over on. But I don't think it's the same direct correlation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's not considered a carbon chayva. That if someone's over an essay, Bezdin doesn't force him to bring a carbon. Okay, let's stop over here. Shkoyach. Have a good Shabbos, and Bez